Welcome to episode 3 of the Filmi Ladies podcast. I'm Beth from Beth Loves Bollywood, and with me is co-host Pittu of Pittu Sultan, famous from blog days on Instagram and many other things. We wanted to start today by recognizing some of the wonderful comments we've gotten on the YouTube uploads from the first 2 episodes of our podcast, and I'm going to throw to Pittu to respond to the comments.
Yay! So we did get a few comments from 2 or 3 people, and I just wanted to address those. We do appreciate getting comments a lot because one of the things that we envisaged for this podcast is that we wanted to have a little bit of a dialogue and a conversation with people, just like we used to have in the blog days. So don't think that if you write a comment or an opinion, it's just going to like disappear into the void. It's not. I'm going to check them and react to them. So first off, on episode 1, Darlings, Lena commented that she really appreciated Alia's decision to not kill Hamza because she felt that at the end of the day, Alia was a good person and a noble person. And it's not just because she was a woman, but she didn't want to turn into something else. And also she would have been haunted by her decision in the futures, just like Shafali Shah said. So that was a good comment. She also mentioned some other movies that she likes, like Damini, which is so fantastic. Sorry, there's a tail.
It's just such an elegant tale.
Every episode there's a cat. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Everybody loves pets on Zoom. Come on.
Yeah, and if they don't, they won't like our episode anyway.
No.
But the cats are also Filmi Ladies. So she mentioned some movies. She mentioned Damini, which I have never thought of as like a revenge drama. I've always thought of Damini more as like a legal movie or like a movie about women's empowerment, but it does fit kind of into the revenge mold. Such a good movie. She also mentioned Gulab Gang, which Beth, neither you nor I have seen, so maybe we should consider watching that. And then in terms of the episode 2, which was the embarrassing crushes and guilty pleasures, Rajat Dikshit mentioned that he likes Raj Kamar's movies. He mentioned 2 of my favorites, Judai and Ladla, both of which are so ridiculously over the top, but so fun. And Sridevi in Judai is just the best. And then as far as embarrassing crushes was concerned, Lena mentioned another really good point. She said that she's one of the people who has a soft spot for Uday Chopra. And her reason was very interesting. She said that he is a celebrity that has, responded to her on Twitter. And he has also followed her on Goodreads. And that brought up an interesting point that, sometimes we may not necessarily like the work that someone does, but we do like who they are as a person. I've heard this comment about Sushant Singh Rajput from a lot of people who used to follow him on Twitter and Instagram, that he followed a lot of his fans and seemed genuinely invested in their lives. So that kind of tracks because I've heard good things about Uday Chopra from people who've interacted with him. So that was interesting. And so no one should be embarrassed of liking a celebrity who is actually nice to people on social media. So that's it for the comments that we got. Sayukta said that she loved the podcast. Our friend Asim from Khandan enjoyed it. So, at the end of this episode as well, if you guys have something to say, please comment and we will respond.
Always respond, and you can tweet to us at Filmi Ladies. We're on Instagram at Filmi Ladies. We have a Facebook page, which is Filmi Ladies. Big surprise. So we're trying to be everywhere, and hope that you feel comfortable talking to us, because that's part of the fun, is joining conversations. Today's topic, we know will get people saying things, whether for good or for bad, and we are going to talk about the one, the only, the love of our lives, Shah Rukh Khan.
Yay!
If you do not like Shah Rukh Khan, please do stick around anyway, because we will be talking about why he maybe isn't always perfect, because he is a human person who's in the public eye. But we will be talking a lot about what we like about him, especially with a slant towards our interests as Filmi Ladies. So yes. I want to ask Pittu to start because, she grew up in Mumbai. She is a Shah Rukh Filmi Lady through and through. Tell us about your history with the man.
So I actually did not grow up in Mumbai. I only lived in Mumbai for 5 years when I went to college. I grew up in a really small town in Nigeria in West Africa, very exotic. And the funny thing is, we did not have movie theaters. There was this Indian uncle who had a grocery store, and he would get cassettes, usually a year after the movie had released in India, and they would come by container. And you would go to the Indian grocery store and you would say, hey, do you have any of the latest movies? And he would give you the latest movie that was a year old at that point. And because I did not grow up watching Bollywood films, I mean, in the sense that I didn't know anything about them. My parents would go and pick up movies, and my dad mostly watched like weepy Dilip Kumar films, like black and white. People were always crying in there. My mother watched a lot of like Devanand films, and I was just kind of like, okay. I mean, for me, Bollywood was just people who were crying all day long. I just never really had that much of an interest. But I remember when my awakening happened. So in my school, everybody had a crush on Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, of course. And I was in school, I was very little, and there were these senior girls. They must have been like 15 or 16 or something. And they were talking about this movie that they had just watched, and it had an actor called Shah Rukh Khan, name I'd never heard. And they said he's really hot and really attractive. And me being this precocious person who, even though I was not cool enough to be friends with those girls, I of course had to pipe up and I said, is he more good looking than Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt? And they said, yeah. And I was like, oh. And they said, and he can dance. And I was like, oh. And then one of the girls, because she was so besotted with him, she did a step. So she said, there's a song in this movie. The movie in question was Divana. And there's a song in the movie, and he goes, Aisi divangi dekhi nahi kahi. And she spun around and she said, and he does this. So he spins and he does this. And she said, and he just looks you right in the eye because he's talking to you. And I was like, really? And she said, yes. So I went home, and for the first time in my life, I said to my mother, I want to watch a movie called Divana. Can we go to the Indian uncle's grocery store and get the movie? And my mother was like, who's in it? And I was like, Shah Rukh Khan. And she was like, who's that? I was like, oh no, but he does this really cute spin and everything. So we went and we got the movie, and that was it. My fate was sealed. I became a bona fide Shah Rukh Khan obsessed person. Eventually, I moved to Mumbai. I spent many evenings outside Bandra Bandstand, outside Land's End, walking in front of his house, hoping to catch a glimpse. Never did. Did become friends with his watchman, who thought it was very annoying. And I am still a die-hard fan of that man. So that's how that happened.
That is amazing. Also, can we take just a moment of thanks for grocery uncles everywhere?
Yes.
Because I also used Grocery Uncle in my early film watching days here in Champaign, Illinois. So like they are everywhere, and they provide invaluable services.
My friend met an Indian groceries uncle in Peru near Machu Picchu. Yes, it was amazing. In Machu Picchu, it was fabulous.
Everywhere. I have to tell a story about Pitu and Shah Rukh, which is that way back in blogging days, I don't know, I'm going to say 2008, something like that. Shah Rukh came to Chicago, which was very near where both of us lived at the time. And he was going to appear at this event called, I think, South Asian Carnival, which doesn't really tell you much of anything, but he and some other movie stars were going to be there. And I was coming to this thing because I thought that sounded fun and probably quite ridiculous, which it was. And I met Pitu for the first time in person at another mutual friend's house. And I asked her why she wasn't going. And she said, I don't see Shah Rukh with a bunch of other people. Like if I'm going to see him, it's going to be just us.
So obnoxious. Basically, I'm going to see Shah Rukh and he's going to do that. Or I don't want him.
It is very important to have standards as a filmy lady.
So important to have standards.
So my Shah Rukh story is very different from yours because I did not grow up with him, but I think he is, I'm going to say, just ubiquitous for foreigners getting acquainted with Hindi films anywhere in the last, I mean, I can speak from since at least 2005, because that was my start date. He's inescapable. And I know from the few friends I have who are not really fans of his or who actively dislike him, that it's pretty hard to get out from under his movies when you are abroad, especially before streaming, because of course Grocery
Right.
Uncle would stock what would rent, and that would always be Shah Rukh. And so that
He's kind of a gateway drug.
yeah, and he is a gateway drug for many, many of us. My first Shah Rukh movie was Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and I
love
remember not really getting the big deal about him. And it took me a couple of movies, and I think it was actually Pretty Woman in Kalho Naho, where I was like,
Yeah.
oh, now I get it. Here he is in
Yay,
his Pretty Woman outfit. Minikon is here. Minikon is everywhere. And I've been a big fan ever since, and we'll go into the reasons why. But last year, after the whole incident with his son, I was asked by Outlook magazine to write a piece about why he appeals to people outside of India and people with otherwise no connections to India. So it was really interesting to kind of think about him as a global figure. We talk about, of course, Amir having all the fans in China, but I think there's no contest of who is the bigger global star, particularly in the West, which is where we both happen to live. It's Shah Rukh, no doubt. And there are things about his persona and his filmography that I think make him appeal very broadly beyond India. Not that he needs to, and not that that's needs to be a priority for anyone to be relevant outside the culture they're from, but he happens to be. And it's there's a lot that you can say about what that means, to his persona and everything. What do we want to talk about first? Some of our favorite films?
Yeah, we can start by talking about our favorite films, and then also our films that we don't like of his.
Yeah, there are
which
some.
ones are your favorites?
All right, so what are your top, I don't know, 3 or so of his?
My number one is hands down Paheli. I love Paheli. It's so heartwarming and adorable, and it completely baffles me that there's so many people who still haven't seen it and who are like, Paheli, which one's that? And I'm like, seriously, you haven't seen Paheli? It is so good.
Gorgeous. It's
amazing.
So
I
beautiful.
love Rani as well. Yeah, every frame in that movie is so pretty. The music is so good. I still love, that Kangana Ray song. That is so good. And I just like the concept of it too. I actually think it's a very feminist movie. I love the fact that it says that, Rani Mukherjee's character in that movie would rather fall in love with a ghost who treats her well and who loves her and pays attention to her and treats her like the queen she is, as opposed to a living, breathing, flesh and blood human being who happens to be her husband, who basically doesn't give a shit. And I just think that that's such an interesting concept. Apparently, it's based on a really old Rajasthani folk tale. But I just really like that movie. And I think Shah Rukh Khan in a moochie and a turban looks so good. I was like, really? You should wear a moochie and a turban in every movie. Like, you should be playing an accountant wearing a turban and a moochie.
Their chemistry is through the roof. And I know I am a little bit immune to Shah Rukh and Kajol I like them fine, but they are not my ultimate film couple at all. I feel like he has chemistry with literally everyone and everything if he wants to. But with Rani in that film in particular, it's gorgeous.
Also with Rani in Chalte Chalte.
Yeah.
I mean, just the songs alone, like Toba Tumhare Ishare, it's madness. They are fire together. I do agree with you on the point of him having chemistry with a lot of people, but I've always found him, he's oddly thanda with Urmila. He's oddly thanda with like Ravina Tandon, with Sonali Bendre, with Twinkle Khanna. There's these few actresses that he hasn't really been paired with very much, but when I see him with them, even in the songs, I'm kind of like how is it that Sonali Bendre has such a great chemistry with Akshay Kumar and Sunil Shetty of all people, but with Shah Rukh, I'm just kind of like, okay.
So I have to say, when you rattled off that list of people, the first thing that came to mind, and I'm not super well versed in any of them, is those are not the best actors. Those women, right? She can be, but sometimes, yeah, that's true. She is pretty good usually, but the other 3, I'm kind of like, they're not awful, and they're, like Ravina obviously is great in songs, but I don't really think of like actors when I think of them. Not
Yeah.
that, but also there's some other people that he's got good chemistry with who are also maybe not the world's best actors, but
True.
that's
I actually
interesting.
don't like his chemistry with Deepika Padukone or Anushka Sharma at all. I just don't see it. I'm just kind of like, why? Can you not? Every time he announces a movie with Deepika, I'm like, please don't. I don't want to. I mean, Pathan, she's in it too. And I was like, why? I mean, I don't dislike her. I just don't like her with him.
Right.
I really like her with Ranbir Kapoor. But
Yeah.
somehow him and her, I'm just kind of like, why? Same thing, Anushka Sharma. Unbearable.
I
In
mean,
Jab Hari Met Sejal. That movie was a slog, Beth.
that's a terrible, terrible movie. Terrible. That would definitely be on my list of 3 that I hate.
Yes, it is 100% on my list of the 3 I hate, which is Zero, Happy New Year, and Jab Hari Met Sejal. I cannot. I can watch his old films. I can watch Guddu and Chamatkar and Chahat and all of those. I mean, they're a little bit questionable, but they're still charming and cute. But I cannot get through these 3. They're the worst.
I would take Happy New Year over Jab Tak Hai Jaan.
Okay.
I don't like that movie.
Maybe do you mean Jab Tak Hai Jaan or Jab Hari Met Sejal?
Both the Jab movies are terrible, but I do mean Jab Tak Hai Jaan.
This is probably a contender for guilty pleasures, but I really enjoyed Jab Tak Hai Jaan.
Interesting.
And I've seen it multiple times.
Oh.
Because I know it's a ridiculous movie. Okay, I get it. Like the whole amnesia plot is like really, and Katrina is so god awful in that movie. Like Anushka Sharma is unbearable in that movie, but she's always unbearable. Anushka fans are gonna come at me. Good thing we're not famous enough yet, so it's fine. But Jab Tak Hai Jaan, Shah Rukh in a military outfit. Come on, Beth.
That is its selling point. That is its one selling point for me.
He's just like bitter. And he's just glowering the whole time. That does it all. That's all I need. I just forward all the bits with Anushka Sharma. I just forward them.
So is that in your like top 3 of his films? Surely not. Maybe.
No, because it's not the whole film that I like, but his bits in it are.
Okay, so what are your other 2 like top favorites?
I love Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. I just love it. I'm such a sap. My favorite scene in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai where he reunites with Kajol and he says to her that, मैंने तुम्हें इतनी सारी चिट्ठी लिखी थी. And then she said, हमने घर बदल दिया था. We changed our home. We'd moved or whatever. And then he said, घर के साथ रिश्ते भी बदल दिए थे क्या? Like, along with changing your house, did you also change your relationships? I bawl like a baby. I'm like, घर के साथ रिश्ते भी बदल दिए थे. I love that movie so much. I also really love Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. It is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Interesting.
Yes. I like to cry, Beth. It's very cathartic. It's my therapy. I could pay a psychiatrist $400 and, $400 an hour. Instead of that, I just feel like I can watch Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum and I can watch him run out of the helicopter and I can burst into tears. And it does the same job. It's cheap. Okay, what are your favorites?
So Paheli is probably my top favorite of his as well. Just for all the reasons stated. I really love Chak De India.
So good.
It is unquestionably a feminist film to me. It has held up on multiple rewatchings for me many times. It is absolutely a sports movie chestnut, but there's nothing wrong with a well-executed formula. I love its emphasis on the women as a team and as individuals.
I love that they didn't make the love angle because that always cheapens.
Yeah.
I was afraid of that happening and they didn't.
And while he is not the most important part of the movie, I feel like a coach, he makes his co-stars shine. I can't really think of anyone else who would have even done this movie.
No.
And if they had done it, would not have stomped all over it and tried to make it their own show. I think it's just lovely. I have introduced many people with no background in Indian cinema to it, and they all love it. It's fabulous. And then
the dialogue is amazing.
Yeah. Which one of them is Didi remains one of the best lines ever spoken in a Hindi film, at least in English, because that's hilarious. And we have friends of the show in Australia who got to dance for Shah Rukh and the cast during the filming in Australia, and he came out and danced with them. What a champ. What a treat. Okay. And then my other favorite, probably top favorite Shah Rukh movie ever is Fan.
I like Fan a lot. I'm surprised you like it because so many people have criticized that movie to the ends of the earth with
I
me.
know. And so
I
the
love
last time
it.
I was in India, Raja Sen very kindly met me for
Mhm.
tea one afternoon. And he also is a huge fan of that movie. And we had a great time talking about that film. That film has, I mean, it is an absolute soliloquy. It is all him. No, again,
Mhm.
no one else could have done this film or would have done
No.
this film. He is uniquely positioned to comment on the creation and destruction of celebrity image. He is, I mean, it's a dual role, like times a million. It's so smart and so interesting. It offers, it's just such a meaty film. There's so much going on
Yeah.
in it. It is, I think, uniquely Indian, maybe uniquely Hindi
Mhm.
filmish, but uniquely Indian, I would say. But I think it would be quite comprehensible to people who don't have familiarity with Indian cinema. I just think it's so incredible. And I really view it as a companion piece to Satyajit Ray's Nayak, which again is
Mhm.
a fascinating commentary on film celebrity. And those two, I think, pair really well.
Mhm.
Fan just absolutely blew me away when I saw it. And I think about it often.
I'm surprised by the amount of invective that movie gets, though, because I do enjoy Fan. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. I like it.
It's
There's
not an
parts
easy
about it that
watch
annoy.
necessarily
Yeah,
either, right? Like
but
it can be rough.
yeah, but I don't understand the amount of hate it gets. I have friends who are fans of Shah Rukh Khan who don't like Fan at all. And I'm like, why?
Really?
So I do find that a little inexplicable. And it's weird because, at least with some movies, when you ask people to explain why they don't like the movie, they're able to verbalize it. They'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, okay, someone doesn't like Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum because they think it's melodramatic. True. Or they don't like it because everyone's crying all the time. That's why I like it, but true. So, but when people tell me they don't like Fan and I ask them why they don't like it, there never seems to be like a satisfying answer.
Mm.
So I'm kind of puzzled by this weird space, because here's the thing about Shah Rukh Khan as an actor, as a person, as a media personality, and his movies as well, is that you can love him or hate him, but you can't ignore him. Because, like we said in our last episode, he's always doing something. There's always
Mhm.
something happening. You're always getting your money's worth. Now you may not want it, but you're getting it. So with
That's true. That's very well said. Like you may not
right,
like this, but something has been offered to you.
yeah, it's not like he's just standing there like a statue. But with Fan, it seems to be in that weird like limbo place where people are like, I just didn't care for it, and
Hmm.
it's weird. I don't know where I'm going with
It
this,
it
but it's
it
weird.
does. I mean, nothing rests easily in Fan except for for the idea that this is really examining something in which we are all complicit as
Mhm.
audience members. And I think that might be some of what people don't like about it is that, at the
Maybe.
end of the film, he's up in Manat looking down at us, and we are again creating another monster. Um,
Yeah.
so I can see why that doesn't rest easily with people. I wish I had thought of this. Someone on Twitter I follow calls themselves a Bollywood anthropologist. I really wish I'd thought of that first. But like, as a Bollywood anthropologist, like this movie is, it's so,
Yeah.
so good. But it is not easy.
Now let's talk about the movies we don't like. So, I mean,
Okay.
we did mention. So what about the movies that we mentioned? Because I think we're united in our hate for Zero, the Jab Harry Met Sejal, and what was the third one? Happy New Year. What
Yeah,
is it
none of
about
those are
this that is
great.
so egregious?
Um, and I will say, even with all of those, I feel like he's trying something, and he's, at least in several of them, kind of experimenting with different types of being
Mhm.
different hero types, which is great
Zero
for
was
him to
very
try.
experimental.
Because we could point to other people who share his surname who do not try new things, and I'm bored and I'm not that and I don't want to watch them. So these are, I salute his A for effort. I don't really think that they
Mhm.
worked very well. I don't like Dilwale.
Oh, Diwali is terrible.
Remember that? So we're all
Horrible.
like, wait, what movie?
Such a
Yeah.
bad movie.
I just keep thinking every time I see the screensaver on a PC, I'm like, oh yeah, remember that song that's basically a PC screensaver? Like, um,
Yeah.
e-
That movie was such a letdown, and especially to hype it up as Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge. It was like, really, don't take that movie's name in your mouth. Don't do it. I loved it. Oh, that's so funny. When we were talking about our favorite movies, neither of us mentioned Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge.
so I mean, so for me, that I've talked about this on a lot on our Kandan podcast friends show. I do not like that movie. I understand its importance. I understand
Yes.
why other people who grew up with it like it. As someone who came to it as like a 30 whatever year old from another country, I was like, this is some regressive crap. I hate it. And I hate all the lying.
We can thank Aditya Chopra for that.
Right. Does it have good performances? Absolutely. And again, I understand its importance and I understand why it is not for me. And that is okay.
Right. I've seen Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge twice in the movie theater in Mumbai. It was great.
I mean, I was like, I don't need to go see this in that theater where it was running forever. I think that's cool. It's not for me.
Yeah.
God, what other movies of his do I dislike intently? There's not that.
You dislike Jab Tak Hai Jaan, as we mentioned.
I do.
How do you feel about Asoka?
I love Asoka.
Right? I love Asoka too.
It's so weird and cool.
And he's so creepy. He's so nasty in that movie. And we've seen Shah Rukhs play nasty. No one does nasty like it.
We got to talk about that. Like the power of this man to play a villain in addition to playing the romantic lead and all these other things that he does.
Yes.
Like nobody villains like him. That's one of the reasons I like Fan, is because he's, all the things. But yeah, I mean, his villain turns are unforgettable. And you know what? I really like Rais.
I like Race too.
That's
we appreciate a lot about Race. And I was watching an interview of Nawazuddin Siddiqui, another actor that I really like. I like Mahira Khan also. And Nawazuddin Siddiqui said in one of his interviews that he was a little hesitant to do this movie because he was afraid that it would basically be the Shah Rukh Khan show and he would have nothing to do. And he basically was like, why should I even do this? And Shah Rukh Khan essentially assuaged his fears and said that, no, you absolutely do have a very important role to play. And I'm not going to take away from it. And I'm going to make sure that, because you're actually the good guy, and I'm going to make sure you get, lots of good dialogues and stuff. And I think that, he kind of kept his promise. And there's so many scenes where Nawazuddin basically steals the show. So that's a good movie too. I like it.
Yeah. He's an excellent co-star a lot of the time.
Yeah, he is. What else? So Asoka is another movie that I never understood why people don't like it. I mean, I get that a lot of people get hung up on historical inaccuracies and stuff. And I'm like, fine. I mean, I guess I could just open like a history book and stuff, but like, I don't want to open a history book. I want to see Shah Rukh. What's so wrong in that? Also Shah Rukh in period costume. I mean, come on. But that's a really good movie that a lot of people have either not seen or they've seen and they're just kind of like meh about it.
It's got great songs for starters. I mean, like, and it is so cool. Good movie. Speaking about historical inaccuracies, I work in a museum, you guys, and I can deal with historical inaccuracies. So, it's possible. I do wish that films would be more accurate about things that are easy to be accurate about.
Yeah.
But there are other things that are also quite important in a film. And like you said, you can go read about this stuff if you would just put in the effort. So it's not hard.
Also, the people who've mentioned the historical inaccuracies are people who do not have anything to do with history or anthropology or anything. So I'm kind of like, is this just a line you're parroting? Because I don't see you ever open a history textbook or anything like that. So I'm not sure where that's coming from.
It doesn't match what they think they know and they don't actually know.
Yeah, right? that's the sense I always get. But it's not like I know a ton about history, so it's not like I can really argue with them. I'm like, okay, I'll still watch it.
It's a good story. I like it. Yeah, I mean, he's got a ton of movies where I am very happy to rewatch, songs that I'm very, very happy to rewatch. Again, I mean, Darde Disco, we haven't talked about that yet. That song
love it.
Is that partnership was a thing of beauty. I don't need to see Om Shanti Om as a whole again, particularly, but that song is so funny. It's so great. I mean, that again, who else would do that? And it's a masterpiece. Yeah.
Now, speaking of who else would do that, I know this is a Shah Rukh Love Fest, but we did say we were going to be fair. And Which I was like, why do we have to be fair? People who like other stars are never fair. They're
That's
just
right.
like my favorite, rah, rah, rah. It's only Shah Rukh fans who will like nitpick their favorite, but it's a way of us showing our love. Um, so do you have a quibble with Shah Rukh? Because I definitely do. Do you have any quibbles with him? And do you think there's anything he could do better? Not that he cares and not that he ever asked us, but.
I think probably my main one is the same as yours, so I'll let you talk about it. He is impressively diversified in his, where he puts his money. I actually really appreciate he does every single ad that comes his way. So it appears, because you know what, going to make the money while he can. And then he can put it back into interesting things like what Red Chilies does, like Darlings.
With pan masala, Beth, why pan masala? Don't do pan masala. You're better than that.
Is that the one with the like floating hearts through London? Like they're so, but I would like to see him take even bigger risks than what he has done, especially as he's in his 50s. I'm sure the pressure on him is immense to not experiment too broadly, but even when he tries to return to form these days, it doesn't really seem to connect with audiences particularly well. So let's do some even stranger choices, do something really weird. Go back to your Maya Memsab days. Like, you can do it. I would love to watch that movie. I'm sure many people won't, but like do some weird stuff, because he is so interested in being an actor. Do more of that.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with everything you said, but I would also say that he doesn't even necessarily need to like completely break the mold and do something completely experimental and avant-garde. I feel like we're not asking for a lot. I don't think like I'm asking. What I'm saying is, can you okay, so the audience that made you the star you were made you a star because it was basically women who wanted to see you in romantic roles. It was DDLJ and all of these things, Kuch Kuch Hota, all of the Karan Johar movies, right? Do a love story, go back to your roots, romance people, but romance someone your own age. I am so sick and tired of him with the Anushka Sharmas and Deepika Padukones who are so much younger than him. I mean, do you want to be as icky as Akshay Kumar? No. Nobody likes Akshay Kumar anymore. He's just icky at this point. He, cavorts with women who are like so much younger than him, most notably recently with Manushi Chiller in that whatever movie that sank without a trace. Prithvi Raj, it was called. I would just really love for him to do like a mature love story, like him and Madhuri Dixit, or him and Tabu, or maybe even him and Vidya Balan, even though she's way younger than him as well. Maybe just like a nice mature love story where they're both divorcees or they're finding love in their 50s or something like that. Why can't he do something like that?
Bring Ronnie back, get them together again.
Do a Chalte Chalte redux with her, 20 years later, how they're faring. Do something like that.
So I even have I have a dream director for such a project as well. I'll be interested if you agree. I want Shah Rukh in a rom-com with Dibakar Banerjee.
Oh, that would be interesting.
That would be weird and different, but not weird. It would just be something new for them together. And Dibakar has not done a film like that,
No, he hasn't.
I love his movies. And I really think that he is a director that could get something really special out of Shah Rukh, again, because he's interested in being an actor. And put Tabu in there, put Konkana Sharma in there, Rani, like
I would have
Vidya, like anyone. There could be so many great people.
Aishwarya. Yeah. I mean, he was so great with her in Devdas. Come on, we need him and Aishwarya together as well. I would have two dream directors. I would want him to do this movie with Zoya Akhtar just because I love the movie she made. She's so good. That would be great. Also, one director that I really want her to do more movies as a director is Konkana Sharma, because I loved Death in the Gunj. Such a good movie. So good. And I feel like that's the only movie she's directed, but she has so much promise. It was such a great debut, and I would like to see her direct him as well. So
maybe she and her mom could get together and direct him.
That would be awesome also. That would be great.
That'd be great.
So how do we get this message through to Shah Rukh? Minicon.
Is there a transmitter inside Minicon? Not that I'm aware of. It would if there is, he's not really paying attention, but maybe Minikon can help.
When I borrowed Minikon from you all those years ago, like 11 years ago, I remember I took him on my trip to India, and he traveled everywhere with me. I took pictures of him outside of Manat, which I will upload on our Instagram, and I'll send you the photo so you can upload it elsewhere. I also took him to my best friend's wedding, and there are literally photos of my best friend of Natasha in her wedding lehenga choli around the fire, and she has Minikon and she's like giving him heart eyes, and her husband Abhishek is just like, seriously, why?
So for those who have not known us for as long as we've known each other, Minikon here actually traveled the globe. He was sent to Australia. He's traveled with various people from various countries all over the place. There are pictures of him everywhere. We used to have a blog with his adventures in it. He's been to Darjeeling. He's been to Bombay, obviously. He's been to Australia. He's been around the United States. He's been to Europe a bunch of times. He's been all sorts of places. And he is just a well-traveled guy, and people always love him because they're like, yes. Oh my God. And in Vienna, one of the Bollywood fans in Vienna is a tailor, and she made him to scale his Dawn outfit with black leather jacket, which I should put on him in a picture. I'll put a picture of him wearing that up because he's a well-traveled guy. I did not take him to India the most recent time, but I did take him to Darjeeling, where he did many like 3/4 turns with the arms out in front of the Himalayas because it needs to happen.
He should come visit me in California, and then he can do that like he did so many years ago. But see, this is what is so good about Bollywood fandom and about Shah Rukh Khan fandom. One of the comments that someone had written on YouTube was for episode 2, and they literally thought to themselves, why aren't these people doing an episode on Shah Rukh Khan? Because when they mentioned Shah Rukh Khan in passing, their faces just lit up. Little did they know that we were in fact planning episode 3 to be a Shah Rukh fest. But I think there is something to be said for the position he's in, where yes, he's an actor, yes, he's a star, but just the amount of love that he has given people, just the amount of happiness. I mean, the man has been entertaining me from my preteen years to now. He is the longest one-sided, unrequited relationship I've been in. It was a true and sincere love for the ages. I'll probably be 85 years old and I will still be talking about Shah Rukh Khan. And there's something to be said for that kind of longevity. There's times when I get annoyed with him. For example, when he does Pan Masala ads and Fair and Handsome ads, I do get annoyed with him.
How did we forget about that? That is bad. That is racist. Please stop.
So that it's like, you don't need to, please just don't do it anymore. So I do get mad at him at that. I get mad at him when he has so much money, he has so much agency, so much power, and he does not produce films with, actresses his age and stuff like that. But these are all very minor quibbles because overall I still do love him.
We love. You know what else we love?
What?
Is when people subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment,
that is such a good segue.
And share it with their friends. Minikon would appreciate it too, because he lives with me usually, and he's been part of this podcast process. So even if you just love Minikon, please subscribe and share. We are also now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under Filmi Ladies. The links to those will be in the description of this video on YouTube. So wherever you listen to podcasts or watch them, we hope to be there. And if there's a platform you use that you're not finding us on, please let us know, and we will do our best with our non-techie selves to get ourselves there.
We're gonna invade everyone's house and their car and their workplace. We're gonna be everywhere. Do you want to tell people what our next episode is going to be about?
Yes. And it is the beginning of a series that we are doing on women superstars through the ages. So this is a little bit of a history lesson, and it will be for us as well, as we're going to be investigating many, many people, some of whom we know well, some of whom we know of more than we know, in my case at least. And we are starting with Nargis.
Yay!
Which for me is definitely an education. I've seen a few of her films, mostly with Raj Kapoor, and she is fascinating to me, and I can't wait to watch my appointed film, which I will reveal only in the podcast, so Pitu does not know. And I think that's going to be super interesting. So if you've got any vintage movie fans in your life, point them to that episode because we would love to hear from people. I'm always asking Indian and Indian diaspora friends to be like, could you please introduce me to your parents and grandparents? Because they've got the film gossip that I'm most interested in. So, you know, this is one for the Wayback Machine fans in your family or for yourself if you, like us, also love vintage films.
Mm-hmm. So we will see you guys next Tuesday, and we will have our episode on Nargis. I know which movie I'm going to review of hers, and then I have no idea which one Beth is going to do. She's being extremely secretive for no reason. But we will see you next week, and thank you for watching. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.